My name is Stephen Berry, and in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to make a Notan. A Notan is a black and white simplification of your image. A simple way of thinking of it is like a yin-yang symbol. So no shades of gray. Everything will be reduced to black or white, and then all of the shapes have to interlock with each other, much like a yin-yang symbol needs to. I'll be using a black Pentel brush pen to make all of my black marks, and then for my white marks, I'll be using a tube of white gouache and a little synthetic brush, as well as a Signo ballpoint marker. It has the ability to make white marks. The goal of a Notan is to help you simplify your image. So we're going to be welding a lot of the values together and helping you kind of move through the painting. So the Notan is a way not only to simplify your image, your reference image, but it also aids in the painting of your painting as well. It's a guide for you as you step into the painting process. So making a Notan is very useful. I do it a lot, and I definitely suggest it for students as well. If you have any questions, please ask in the comments. All right, here we are at the beginning of the Notan process. Now, making a Notan has a lot to do with positive and negative shapes, since we only have black and we only have white to work with. So I start off with the positive shape of the log, and then all the dark background goes in so that I can backlight all of those beautiful sunlit ferns on the top of the log. And that process of moving between positive dark shapes and then painting negatively around the light shapes will be something that I'll be repeating for the whole process of the Notan making. And I'm going to be working from the top of the painting and then slowly working my way down. Here I am painting in the positive shape for the big log, and then this will allow me to sort of geographically locate the log when I go to start painting all of the negative shapes for the ferny leaves on top. I'm using a Pentel brush pen, and it has a nice fine point, but I can also use the side, the belly of the brush to allow me to sort of fill in large areas. I don't use a pencil or anything for this process. The complicated thing about doing a Notan is oftentimes dealing with all of these middle values. The middle values can either become white or they can become black, and a lot of it depends on the context of that area and the functional needs of the Notan, right? It has to be able to read and make sense. So some areas, like the top of the painting, have a lot of middle values in it, but I made them all black so that the log, the backlit log, stands out. And you'll see later on there'll be other similarly valued areas in the foreground, and they'll also either go to become black or they might actually end up being white. It just depends on the context. I'm moving some of the shapes around, and I'm making some shapes more important and some shapes less important. So a lot of composition goes on while we're working on a Notan. We're welding shapes together and moving the eye around the painting, right? All we have is contrast. That's the only tool we have. So dark versus light to make all of these interesting edges that guide our eye around it. Next, I'm blocking in the edges of what will be the creek, but I'm not going to leave them that way. They're really just there as notations to help me locate different elements of the painting. Now, it's worth recognizing how often I'm having to decide what to do with the middle values. So in that lower log, if you look in the water, it's definitely a paler value than the value, for example, of the cast shadow on the shore. But it's all a dark value in the Notan. So the Notan, like an hourglass, is simplifying things down. And I have to decide for those middle values, what's the most important way to lead the eye? And then I'll nudge them to the left, or I'll nudge them to the right, or I'll nudge them to be darker or lighter. Now that I'm done with the Pentel brush pen, I'm going to start going in with the white gouache and the tube of white gouache on my little synthetic brush. And the second half of this video is really about this back and forth process where we're exploring the image. You know, as watercolor artists, we're always having to paint from dark to light usually, and there's not a lot of revising that can be done, right? But when we're working on a Notan, we get to sort of act like an oil or an acrylic painter. So I can go back in here, I can put in little highlights and details that I think are of use, and then after this, I'll also be going back in with the Pentel brush pen as I explore the image. I might decide some marks I made that were white, I want to actually change them, and I'd like for them to be dark again. And you'll see me go back and forth until I get it right, and then this will be the guide. This will become the guide for the painting process, right? Much like the hourglass, I'm gonna open it back up and recomplicate things, but this will be the way that I bond my shapes together and shift my middle values around. Here I'm using the Signo ballpoint pen, and as you can see, it allows me to make very fine lines. These are great for leading you around the image in different kinds of ways. And once again, I'm exploring the cast shadows on the water, trying to figure out how complex I want to make them. Little rocks go in, and I have to connect those little white lines across the white areas, right? I got to connect them all. So these little black streaks are connected to the little white ballpoint pen marks. But then once again, nope, I didn't like it. I'm going to take it out. I'm going to simplify that area. It was becoming too complex. I need little areas that look like little ferny fronds. So this little process of weaving shapes together and of attempting to try out something and then deciding I don't want it and then going back in and erasing it, so to speak, is very, very helpful. It's good to get all of this out of the way before you start your painting so that you have a good guide for that process. You can see me once again taking out some of the black marks, just adding in the last bits of finesse. And then nope, I don't like it. So it's good to recognize this process of exploration is an essential element of building a Notan. Sometimes I have to make more than one. This is the finished piece, and this is definitely what guides me when I step into doing the painting. So the final painting is based off of this. The values are more complex and they have more middle values, but they are still all bonded together, leading you around. So if you look back down at that creek as an example, it's obviously much more sophisticated in the final image, right? Those are little reflected lights in the cast shadow. And yet if you close an eye and let one eye go out of focus, you can see that you're still reading it all as a darker value. It's all darker than the context around it. So those sorts of elements are important. Thank you very much. If you guys have any questions about this, please ask away in the comments. Thanks a lot.